The next step in our software demonstration will be to run the visualizer to view the results of the documents that we processed. I will now start the visualization tool by clicking on the middle icon. This will launch a web server and a web browser on your local machine, as the visualizer is a web application. As you can see, my button click launched Safari, which opened up the visualizer. The DeepPhe Visualizer is a cohort identification tool that uses the information extracted by the DeepPhe pipeline and organizes it into a cohort identification workflow. In the first step of the workflow, a user sees a plot summarizing the distribution of patient ages at the time of their first encounter across all cancer stages. A user can interact with this control to refine the cohort by a patient's age at the time of the first encounter. Here, I specify that I only want patients that were younger than 54.5 years old at the age of their first encounter. In the second step of the workflow, the number of patients in each cancer stage is shown in a bar graph. A user can further refine the cohort to a specific cancer stage by clicking on the corresponding bar. Here, I select only patients with cancers that are in stage 2B. The final step in the cohort identification workflow entails reviewing the diagnosis information and biomarker summaries for the cohort. Here we see that of the 3 patients that met my criteria, 2 are diagnosed with invasive ductal breast carcinoma, and 1 has a diagnosis of invasive lobular breast carcinoma. We can also see that DeepPhe identified biomarkers in every patient in this cohort. And finally, looking at this chart, we see that DeepPhe found positive ER biomarkers for every patient in the cohort. 2 patients had 2 positive PR biomarkers, and 1 patient had a negative PR biomarker. Finally, we see that only 1 patient had a positive HER2 biomarker, while the other 2 had negative HER2 biomarkers found. Another powerful feature of the DeepPhe pipeline is the ability to identify and classify specific facts about a patient's cancers. If the user wants to go beyond cohort identification and explore these facts, a user can click on one of the patient IDs in the cohort, which will load a patient detail page, as I will now demonstrate. The first section of the page shows basic information about the patient. The second section shows the details of the cancer and the tumor or tumors. Tumor attributes can be arranged either as a table or as a list. A user can click on one of these values to see the source documents related to that attribute. This will be demonstrated shortly. The next section of the page shows patient documents on a timeline. Clicking on a point in the timeline or clicking one of these cancer attributes that I just mentioned opens a document viewer at the bottom of the page. The document viewer shows the original report text and allows the user to explore information extracted by DeepPhe. For example, if we wanted to identify the source of the finding, invasive lesion, we click on the term and scroll down to the document viewer. First, we see that DeepPhe found text related to this finding in 8 records. The text for the highlighted report is shown in the viewer. On the left, we see the relevant terms that DeepPhe extracted from the report. A user can either click on these terms or use the search box to narrow down the selection. This concludes the demonstration of the DeepPhe Visualizer.